Hi, second grade. I hope you enjoyed the first week of our book. I'm so excited to pick back up in James and the Giant Peach. I am on chapter 19 today. We're going to do 3 chapters every day now until it's done. I'm so excited. All right. So last thing that happened, everybody was feeling happy. The sun was shining brightly out of the soft blue sky. Everything was calm. The Giant Peach was a massive golden ball sailing upon a silver sea. So that's where we are now. Chapter 19. Look, cried the centipede just as they were finishing their meal. Look at that funny thin black thing gliding through the water over there. They all swung around to look. There are 2 of them, said Miss Spider. There are lots of them, said the ladybug. What are they? Asked Earthworm, getting worried because he couldn't see, of course. They must be some kind of fish, said the old green grasshopper. Perhaps they have come along to say hello. They are sharks, cried the earthworm. I'll bet you anything you like that they are sharks. And they have come along to eat us up. Well, that's absolute rot, the centipede said, and his voice seemed suddenly to have become a little shaky, and he wasn't laughing anymore. I am positive they are sharks, said the earthworm. I just know that they are sharks. And so, in actual fact, did everybody else, but they were too frightened to admit it. There was a short silence. They all peered down anxiously at the sharks, who were cruising slowly round and round the peach. Just assuming they are sharks, the centipede said. There still can't possibly be any danger if we stay up here. But even as he spoke, one of those thin black fins suddenly changed direction and came cutting swiftly through the water right up to the side of the peach itself. The shark paused and stared up at the company with small, evil eyes. Go away, they shouted. Go away, you filthy beast. Slowly, almost lazily, the shark opened its mouth, which was big enough to have swallowed a perambulator, and made a lunge at the peach. A lunge means to swiftly, quickly charge something. If you lunge. They all watched, aghast, which means terrified. And now, as though at a signal from the leader, all the other sharks came swimming in toward the peach, and they clustered around it and began to attack it ferociously. We know ferociously means aggressively, right? There must have been 20 or 30 of them at least, all pushing and fighting and lashing their tails and turning the water into a froth. Panic and pandemonium. That's a word I want you to know. Pandemonium just means chaos. Broke out immediately on top of the peach. Oh, we are finished now, cried Miss Spider, wringing her feet. They will eat up the whole peach, and then there will be nothing left for us to stand on, and then they'll start in on us. She is right, shouted the ladybug. We are lost forever. Oh, I don't want to be eaten, wailed the earthworm. So here's a picture of them on top of the peach, and there are the sharks charging, lunging at the bottom of the peach. But they will take me first of all because I am so fat and juicy and I have no bones. Is there nothing we can do? Asked the ladybug, appealing to James. Appealing means questioning. Surely you can think of a way out of this. Suddenly they were all looking at James. Think, begged Miss Spider. Think, James, think. Come on, said the centipede. Come on, James. There must be something we can do. Their eyes waited upon him, tense, anxious, pathetically hopeful. They are all completely relying on James to get them out of this. Chapter 20. There is something that I believe we might try, James Henry Trotter said slowly. I am not saying that it will work. Tell us, cried the earthworm. Tell us quick. We'll try anything you say, said the centipede. But hurry, hurry, hurry. Be quiet and let the boy speak, said the ladybug. Go on, James. They all moved a little closer to him. There was a longish pause. Go on, they cried frantically. Go on. And all the time while they were waiting, they could hear the sharks threshing around in the water below them. It was enough to make anyone frantic and fearful. Come on, James, the ladybug said, coaxing him. I'm afraid it's no good after all, James murmured, shaking his head. I'm terribly sorry. I forgot. We don't have any string. We need hundreds of yards of string to make this work. What sort of string? Asked the old green grasshopper sharply. Any sort, just as long as it's strong. My dear boy, that's exactly what we do have. We've got all you want. How? Where? The silkworm, cried the old green grasshopper. Didn't you ever notice the silkworm? She's still downstairs. She never moves. She just lies there sleeping all day long. But we can easily wake her and make her spin her thread. And what about me, may I ask, said Miss Spider. I can spin just as well as any silkworm. What's more, I can spin patterns. Well, can you make enough between you? Asked James. As much as you want. And quickly? Oh, of course, of course. And will it be strong? The strongest there is. It's as thick as your finger. But why? What are you going to do? I'm going to lift this peach clear out of the water, James announced firmly. You're mad, cried the earthworm. It's our only chance. The boy's crazy. He's joking. Go on, James, the ladybug said gently. How are you going to do it? Skyhooks, I suppose, jeered the centipede. Jeered means joked. He doesn't believe in him. Seagulls, James answered calmly. The place is full of them. Look up there. They all looked up and saw a great mass of seagulls wheeling around and around in the sky. Well, I'm going to take a long silk string, James went on, and I'm going to loop one around the end of the seagull's neck. And then I'm going to tie the other end to the stem of the peach. He pointed to the peach stem, which was standing up like a short, thick mast in the middle of the deck. The mast is the strong, tall part of a boat that the sails attach to. Then I'm going to get another seagull and do the same thing. Again, and another, and another. Ridiculous, they shouted. Absurd. Poppycock. Boulderdash. Madness. These are all words that means that's ridiculous. It's not going to work. And the old green grasshopper said, how can a few seagulls lift an enormous thing like this up into the air, and all of us as well? It would take hundreds, thousands maybe. There is no shortage of seagulls, James answered. Look for yourself. We'll probably need 400, 500, 600, maybe even 1,000. I don't know. I shall simply go on hooking them to the stem until we have enough to lift us. They'll be bound to lift us in the end. It's like balloons. You give someone enough balloons to hold, I mean really enough, then up he goes, if you've ever seen the movie Up. And the seagull has far more lifting power than a balloon. If only we have the time to do it. We are all going to be sunk by those sharks in, if only we are not sunk first by those awful sharks. You're absolutely off your head, said the earthworm. How on earth do you propose to get a loop of string around a seagull's neck? I suppose you're going to fly up there yourself and catch it. The boy's dotty, said the centipede. These are all words for silly and crazy. Let him finish, said the ladybug. Go on, James. How would you do it? Well, with bait. Bait? What sort of bait? Well, with a worm, of course. Seagulls love worms. Didn't you know that? And luckily for us, we have here the biggest, fattest, pinkest, juiciest earthworm in the whole world. Oh, you can stop right there, the earthworm said sharply. That is quite enough. Go on, the other said, beginning to grow interested. Go on. Well, the seagulls have already spotted him, James continued. That's why there are so many of them circling around. But they daren't come down to him and get him with the rest of us standing here. So this is what... Stop, cried the earthworm. Stop, stop, stop. I won't have it. I refuse. I. Be quiet, said the centipede. Mind your own business. I like that. My dear earthworm, you're going to be eaten anyway. So what difference does it make whether it's sharks or seagulls? Well, I won't do it. Well, why don't we hear what the plan is first, said the old green grasshopper. I don't give a hoot what the plan is, cried the earthworm. I am not going to be pecked to death by a bunch of seagulls. I will not. You will be a martyr, said the centipede. A martyr is like Jesus because he died for other people. A martyr is someone who dies for something that they believe in. I shall respect you for the rest of my life. So will I, said Miss Spider, and your name will be in the newspapers. Earthworm gives life to save friends. I can see it now. But he won't have to give his life, James told them. Now listen to me. This is what we'll do. You ready to hear the plan? Chapter 21. Why, it's absolutely brilliant, cried the old green grasshopper when James had explained his plan. The boy's a genius, the centipede announced. How can I keep my boots on after all? Now I can keep my boots on after all. Oh, I shall be pecked to death, wailed the poor earthworm. Of course you won't. I will, I know I will, and I won't even be able to see them coming at me because I have no eyes. James went over and put an arm gently around the earthworm's shoulders. I won't let them touch you, he promised. I promise I won't. But we've got to hurry. Look down there. There were more sharks than ever now around the peach. The water was boiling with them. There must have been 90 or 100 at least. And to the travelers on top, it certainly seemed as though the peach were sinking lower and lower into the water. Action stations, James shouted. Jump to it. There's not a moment to lose. He was the captain now, and everyone knew it. They would do whatever he told them. All hands below deck except Earthworm, he ordered. Here is a picture of Centipede and James and the Earthworm and the seagulls. Okay. Yes, yes, they all said eagerly as they scuttled up the tunnel entrance. Come on, let's hurry. And you, Centipede, James shouted, hop downstairs and get that silkworm to work at once. Tell her to spin as she's never spun before. Our lives depend upon it. And the same applies to you, Miss Spider. Hurry on down, start spinning. Chapter 22. In a few minutes, everything was ready. It was very quiet now on top of the peach. There was nobody in sight, nobody, except the Earthworm. One half of the earthworm, looking like a great, thick, juicy pink sausage, lay innocently in the sun for all the seagulls to see. The other half of him was dangling down the tunnel. James was crouching close beside the earthworm in the tunnel entrance just below the surface, waiting for the first seagull to notice. He had to loop a string around in his hands. The old green grasshopper, he had a loop of silk string in his hands. The old green grasshopper and the ladybug were further down in the tunnel, holding onto the earthworm's tail, ready to pull him down quickly out of danger as soon as James gave the command. And far below, in the great hollow stone of the peach, the glowworm was lighting up the room so that two spinners, the silkworm and Miss Spider, could see what they were doing. The centipede was down there too. He was holding them both frantically with greater efforts. He was encouraging them. Every now and again, James could hear his voice coming up faintly from the depths, shouting, "Spin, silkworm, spin! Come on, let's go, faster, faster, or we'll throw you to the sharks." I don't know if that's the kind of encouragement that would help me. "Here comes the first seagull," whispered James. "Keep still now, earthworm, keep still. The rest of you, get ready to pull him down." "Please don't let it spike me," begged the earthworm. I won't, shh." Out of the corner of one eye, James watched the seagull as it came swooping down toward the earthworm. And then suddenly, it was so close that he could see its small black eyes and its curved beak. The beak was open, ready to grab a nice piece right out of the earthworm's back. "Pull!" shouted James. The old green grasshopper and ladybug gave the earthworm's tail an enormous tug. And like magic, the earthworm disappeared into the tunnel. At the same time, up went James's hand, and the seagull flew right into the loop of silk that he was holding out. The loop, which had been cleverly made, tightened just the right amount, but not too much around its neck, and the seagull was captured. "Hooray!" shouted the old green grasshopper, peering out of the tunnel. "Well done, James." Up flew the seagull with James, paying out the silk. He was letting it go as the seagull was flying up. He was not letting go all the way, but he was letting more string out. He gave it about 50 yards and then tied the other end of the string to the stem of the peach. "Next one," he shouted, jumping back into the tunnel. "Oh, it's working!" And here's a cool picture of that. So there's the earthworm being pulled back into the tunnel. There's James holding the first seagull, and he's going to tie it right there to that stem. Oh my goodness. And there's a whole bunch of birds. All right. "Up you get again, earthworm. Bring in some more silk, centipede." "Oh, I do not like this at all," wailed the earthworm. "It just only missed me. I even felt the wind on my back as it went swishing past." "Shh," whispered James. "Keep still. Here comes another one." So they did it again, and again, and again, and again, and again, and again. And the seagulls kept coming, and James caught them one after the other and tethered them to the peach stem. Tethered means tied a string to them. 100 seagulls, he shouted, wiping the sweat from his face. "Keep going," they cried. "Keep going, James." 200 seagulls, 300 seagulls, 400 seagulls. The sharks, as though sensing that they were in danger of losing their prey, their peach, were hurling themselves at the peach more ferociously than ever. The peach was sinking lower and lower still in the water. 500 seagulls, James shouted. "Silkworm says she's running out of silk," yelled the centipede from below. "She says she can't keep up much longer, nor can Miss Spider." "Tell them they've got to," James answered. "They just can't stop now." "We're lifting," somebody shouted. "No, we're not." "I felt it." "Put on another seagull, quick." "Quiet, everybody. Here's one coming now." This was the 501st seagull. 501 seagulls. And the moment that James caught it and tethered it to the stem with all the others, the whole enormous peach suddenly started rising up slowly out of the water. "Look out, here we go. Hold on, boys." And then it stopped, and there it hung. It hovered and swayed, but it was no higher. The bottom of it was just touching the water. It was like a delicately balanced scale that needed only the tiniest push to tip it one way or the other. "One more will do it," shouted the old green grasshopper, looking out of the tunnel. "We're almost there." And now came the big moment. Quickly, the 501st, I lost my place. Quiet, everybody. Here's one coming now. This was the 501st seagull, and the moment that James caught it and tethered it to the stem with all the others, the whole enormous peach suddenly started rising up slowly out of the water. "Look out, boys. Here we go. Hold on." And then it stopped. It hung there. I'm sorry. It was like a delicate balance. "One more till we do it," shouted the old green grasshopper, looking out of the tunnel. "We're almost there." And now came the big moment. Sorry, I lost my place. Quickly, the 502nd seagull was caught and harnessed to the peach stem. And suddenly, but slowly, majestically, like some fabulous golden balloon, with all the seagulls straining at the strings above. How many? 502. 502 birds pulling this peach out of the water. You'll want to know that. With all the seagulls straining at the strings above, the giant peach rose up, dripping out of the water, and began climbing toward the heavens. Oh, it's getting so good. We're going to do chapter 23 tomorrow. See you then.